Coordinated universal time exists to provide a single, shared reference for measuring time across the globe. It serves as a common baseline that can be used by institutions, networks, and systems that must compare moments precisely. The existence of a unified standard reduces ambiguity that would otherwise arise from local or regional definitions of time. It allows disparate systems to reference the same numeric value for hours, minutes, and seconds. This common reference is central to many modern technologies and operations. A unified time standard supports civil timekeeping. Civil authorities use the standard as a legal reference for clocks and calendars. Time zones are defined relative to this reference. Local authorities may adopt offsets from the standard for daily life, but the underlying reference remains the same. This arrangement ensures that legal definitions of time are consistent with scientific measurements. It also provides a foundation for timestamping legal documents, contracts, and official records in a way that can be compared across borders. Communications networks depend on synchronized time. Telephone exchanges, radio broadcasters, and digital data networks require coordinated timing to sequence signals. Packet-switched networks use timestamps to order messages and to estimate transit delays. Wireless networks rely on timing to allocate frequency use and to avoid interference. In these contexts, a single reference time allows different parts of a network to operate in harmony and to process events in a predictable order. Navigation systems use the standard to establish position and velocity. Satellite navigation depends on precise timing signals transmitted from space. Receivers calculate distances by measuring the time it takes for signals to travel from satellites to the receiver. A common time reference among satellites and ground stations simplifies these calculations and reduces error. Precise timing is also necessary for determining the synchronization of satellite clocks, which directly affects positional accuracy. Financial markets require consistent timestamps for trading and settlement. High-frequency trading systems record events that occur in fractions of a second. Exchanges and clearinghouses use time references to order transactions and to verify compliance with trading rules. Audit trails depend on consistent timestamps so that transactions can be reconstructed and verified across different systems. A common time standard reduces disputes about the sequence of events and supports regulatory oversight. Scientific research relies on a unified reference for comparing observations made at different sites. Experiments in physics, astronomy, and geoscience often require correlation of measurements from instruments that are separated by great distances. A single time standard allows researchers to align data sets and to measure intervals with high precision. Timekeeping is integral to experiments that investigate fundamental constants, particle interactions, and cosmic events. In many cases, the measurement of time is itself the primary objective of the research. Power systems and electrical grids use synchronized time for coordination. Grid operators monitor flows of electricity and control the operation of generators and substations. Time-stamped measurements enable the detection of abnormal conditions and the tracing of events. Synchronization assists in the management of system frequency and in the coordination of restoration efforts after outages. Precise timing supports the integration of distributed energy resources and facilitates market operations for energy trading. Transportation systems rely on coordinated time for scheduling and safety. Airline operations Railway timetables and maritime coordination depend on shared time references. Scheduling across long distances and multiple time zones is simplified by referring to a single standard. Maintenance records and inspection logs use timestamps to ensure compliance with operational procedures. In complex logistics networks, consistent timing helps to optimize routing and to manage connections between modes of transport. Information technology systems use the standard for file systems, databases, and security. Timestamps are embedded in logs, certificates, and records of transactions. Authentication protocols depend on synchronized clocks to determine the validity of tokens and to prevent replay attacks. Distributed systems require consistent notions of time to resolve conflicts and to coordinate updates. Time synchronization protocols propagate the standard to individual devices so that disparate components can interoperate. Space operations use a common time reference for mission planning and control. Ground stations, tracking networks, and mission control centers align their schedules using the standard. Commands and telemetry are time-tagged so that events can be correlated with spacecraft behavior. Deep space navigation and observation planning benefit from consistent timing, allowing ground teams to compare data and to sequence commands with predictable delays. Metrology institutions maintain and disseminate the standard. National measurement institutes operate laboratory clocks and compare them with international references. These institutes participate in coordinated measurement campaigns to ensure continuity and to improve accuracy. Laboratories generate time signals and provide services so that other organizations can synchronize their equipment. The work of these institutions underpins the reliability of the standard. Legal and regulatory frameworks reference the Unified Time Standard. Laws and regulations may specify the use of the standard for official timing. Standards organizations produce technical documents that define methods for disseminating the reference. Compliance with these frameworks ensures that critical systems adhere to common practices for timekeeping. This reduces the risk of incompatibility and supports international cooperation. A unified global time standard also supports archival and historical records. Accurate timestamps preserve the temporal context of data and documents. When researchers examine records from different sources, a common reference enables meaningful comparisons. The continuity of the standard allows long-term studies that require consistent timing across decades. The scope of the standard, therefore, spans many sectors: telecommunications, navigation, finance, science, energy, transportation, information technology, space operations, metrology, and legal systems all depend on a single shared reference. Each of these sectors uses the standard in ways that are aligned with its operational needs. The presence of a unified time reference reduces error, supports interoperability, and enables the coordination of activities across geographic and organizational boundaries. In practical terms, the standard functions as a set of defined moments. Instruments, networks, and systems align their clocks to those moments through technical means. The engineering of synchronization systems focuses on accuracy, reliability, and traceability. The adoption of a single reference simplifies procedures for coordination and supports the broad set of activities that rely on consistent timekeeping. The purpose and scope of this unified standard are thus foundational to many aspects of modern infrastructure and science. The modern definition of the second is based on a specific property of atoms. It relies on the natural oscillation between two energy states of the cesium-133 atom. That oscillation produces electromagnetic radiation at a precise frequency. The International System of Units defines the second as the duration of 9,192 31,770 cycles of the radiation, corresponding to the transition between two hyperfine levels of the ground state of the cesium-133 atom. This definition links time to a reproducible physical phenomenon. Atoms of a given isotope have identical internal structure and energy levels when isolated from external perturbations. The energy difference between the two specified hyperfine levels corresponds to a single, well-defined frequency. When an ensemble of cesium atoms experiences electromagnetic radiation at that frequency, the atoms respond in a predictable way. This predictable response makes the transition a reliable reference for measuring durations. Measurement of the defined frequency relies on resonance. A source of microwave radiation is tuned near the transition frequency of the cesium atom. As the frequency approaches the natural transition frequency, the probability of inducing the transition increases. At exact resonance, the induced transitions occur with maximal probability. Experimental apparatus detects the rate of transitions as the microwave frequency is varied. The frequency that maximizes the observed transition signal is taken as the atomic reference. Counting a fixed number of cycles of that microwave radiation yields the defined duration of 1 second. Early implementations used cesium beams. In those devices, a beam of cesium atoms passed through regions with controlled magnetic and electric fields. Microwave radiation was applied in a region crossed by the beam. The atoms entered and exited that region in known states, and a detector counted how many had undergone the hyperfine transition. The resonance curve, a plot of transition probability versus microwave frequency, guided the tuning of the radiation source. Modern primary frequency standards still rely on the same basic hyperfine transition, but they use refined methods to reduce systematic effects and improve stability. One important refinement is the atomic fountain. In a fountain clock, laser cooling slows cesium atoms and launches them vertically. The atoms follow a parabolic trajectory. They pass twice through the microwave interaction region, once ascending and once descending. The time between these interactions is longer than in a beam device. That longer interrogation time narrows the resonance feature. Narrower resonance improves the ability to determine the exact transition frequency. It also improves short-term stability by allowing more precise discrimination of frequency deviations. Realization of the second requires control of environmental influences. External magnetic fields shift atomic energy levels. Blackbody radiation and collisions with background gas can also perturb the transition frequency. Experimental setups therefore isolate the cesium atoms from such influences. Magnetic shielding, vacuum chambers, and temperature control are typical measures. Residual perturbations are measured and corrected. The final reported frequency includes calibration for known shifts. Uncertainties are quantified and reported with the measurement. Repeatability is a central concept in the physical definition. Repeatability refers to the ability to obtain the same measured result under the same conditions. The fundamental properties of cesium atoms support repeatability because the hyperfine splitting is inherent to the atom. Laboratories following the same procedures and controlling environmental factors obtain closely matching results. This agreement is a practical demonstration that the chosen atomic transition provides a stable reference over time and location. Reproducibility complements repeatability. Reproducibility refers to the ability of different laboratories, using different equipment and procedures, to arrive at consistent values. International comparisons of primary frequency standards test reproducibility. These comparisons use microwave links, optical fibers, and satellite signals to transfer frequency information between laboratories. Agreement within reported uncertainties indicates that the realization of the second is reproducible across the global metrology community. Stability and accuracy are related but distinct concepts in timekeeping. Stability describes how much a clock's output varies over a given averaging interval. A stable clock shows little variation over time. Accuracy refers to how close the clock's output is to the true value defined by the atomic transition. A clock can be stable yet biased if it suffers a systematic shift. Primary frequency standards aim to combine high stability with high accuracy. Systematic effects are carefully studied, and correction procedures are implemented to reduce bias. The defined number of cycles is an exact integer. That integer provides a clear link between the physical oscillation and the unit of time. The choice of that number is historical and practical. It connects modern techniques to earlier definitions of the second based on astronomical observations. The atomic definition replaced those earlier definitions because atomic transitions offer greater uniformity and repeatability than astronomical phenomena at the required level of precision. Advances in measurement techniques continue to refine the realization of the second. Optical frequency standards operate at much higher frequencies than the cesium microwave transition. These optical transitions can produce narrower resonance features and offer prospects for improved stability and accuracy. Frequency combs allow comparison between microwave and optical frequencies. Research in optical clocks explores whether future redefinitions of the second might rely on a different atomic or ionic transition. Such changes would require broad agreement among national metrology institutes and demonstration of practical reproducibility. Current practice preserves consistency while allowing innovation. National laboratories maintain primary cesium standards that realize the official definition. Secondary and transportable standards compare with primary standards to ensure continuity. International bodies coordinate comparisons and compile ensemble timescales. These procedures support long-term consistency in the practical realization of the second. The physical definition of the second thus rests on a specific atomic transition, measurable through resonance methods. Repeatability follows from the inherent properties of the cesium atom. Reproducibility is achieved through standardized procedures and international comparison. Measurement systems correct for known perturbations and quantify uncertainty. Together, these elements provide a stable and consistent foundation for the unit of time used in scientific and technological applications. Atomic clocks operate by comparing an electronic oscillator to a stable atomic transition. The oscillator produces a continuous waveform. The atomic transition provides a precise frequency reference. The SI second is defined by the frequency of a specific transition in the cesium atom. That definition provides a standard against which oscillators are measured and corrected. Containment begins with an enclosure that isolates the atoms from external perturbations. Atoms are held in vacuum chambers. Pressure is reduced to limit collisions that would shift atomic frequencies. Magnetic shielding surrounds the chamber to reduce stray fields. Thermal control stabilizes temperature. Mechanical mounts reduce vibrations. These measures aim to keep the atomic environment constant over the timescales relevant to measurement. Different types of atomic clocks use different methods to access atomic transitions. In one common design, cesium atoms travel upward in a fountain. They pass through microwave cavities twice, before and after a ballistic flight, and the microwave frequency is adjusted to maximize the measured transition probability. In optical clocks, atoms or ions are held in traps and probed with laser light tuned to an optical frequency transition. Trapped ion clocks often use a single ion confined by electric fields. Optical lattice clocks hold many neutral atoms in a periodic potential created by counter-propagating laser beams. In all cases, the interaction between radiation and atoms produces a measurable signal that indicates how closely the oscillator matches the atomic resonance. Monitoring the atomic signal requires sensitive detection systems. Photodetectors collect light emitted or absorbed by the atoms. Microwave or optical cavities guide radiation with controlled field distribution. Electronics measure the response and produce error signals that represent frequency offset. These error signals are sent to control systems that adjust the oscillator. The adjustment is continuous or periodic, depending on the clock design and required stability. Local oscillators serve as the working source of time or frequency output. Common local oscillators include quartz, crystal oscillators for short-term stability, and hydrogen masers for longer-term stability. In optical systems, ultra-stable lasers serve that role. The local oscillator is locked to the atomic reference through a feedback loop. The loop reduces the difference between the oscillator and the atomic frequency. It also filters noise and maintains long-term alignment with the atomic transition. Redundancy and ensemble operation are standard practices in laboratories that maintain reference time. Multiple clocks of the same or different types are operated in parallel. Their outputs are compared continuously. Statistical methods combine the measurements into a single timescale that is less sensitive to the behavior of any one clock. When individual clocks deviate, the ensemble algorithm reduces their influence. This ensemble timescale forms the laboratory's realization of coordinated universal time at that site. Signal generation transforms a stabilized frequency into usable time signals. Frequency synthesizers multiply or divide the stabilized frequency to produce standard outputs. One common output is a pulse per second signal. The pulse marks the start of each second and can be used to synchronize equipment. Time codes encoded on radio or electrical carriers convey calendar and time of day information. Optical signals carry frequency references with lower loss over fiber links. Satellite links distribute time signals over global distances. Time transfer methods connect clocks across distances. Fiber optic links offer high stability for regional and national connections. Satellite systems enable global coverage. Two-way exchanges measure and compensate for propagation delays. Procedures correct for known delays and for asymmetries in the transmission path. These corrections are necessary for combining remote measurements into a coherent international timescale. Diagnostics and performance assessment use specific metrics. Frequency stability quantifies how much a clock's frequency varies over a given averaging time. Noise sources are characterized and separated into categories such as white noise, flicker noise, and random walk. Drift quantifies systematic changes over long periods. Allen deviation and related measures are commonly used to present stability. Data logging records, environmental conditions, error signals, and time differences. Operators review these logs to detect trends and to schedule maintenance. Calibration procedures verify the link between the atomic resonance and the laboratory's time scale. Calibration can involve direct comparisons with other primary standards. It can also use frequency combs to relate optical frequencies to microwave standards. Frequency combs are optical tools that produce a spectrum of evenly spaced lines. They act as a bridge between optical and microwave domains. This capability enables optical clocks to contribute to microwave-based timescales and to international comparisons. Maintenance. Tasks are routine and methodical. Vacuum pumps are serviced to maintain low pressure. Lasers undergo alignment and periodic replacement of optical components. Electronic modules receive firmware updates and performance checks. Magnetic shields and temperature control systems are inspected. Logs document the timing and results of each maintenance activity. These records ensure traceability of data and support long-term stability assessments. Control rooms display time offsets and alarms in a factual manner. They show phase differences, frequency deviations, and environmental readings. Automated systems generate alerts when parameters exceed predefined thresholds. Technicians respond by following documented procedures. Responses can include adjusting control parameters, initiating recalibration, or taking a clock offline for detailed servicing. Decisions are guided by established protocols and by comparison with ensemble behavior. Data produced by atomic clocks feed into national and international timekeeping activities. Laboratories submit frequency and time differences to central organizations. Analysts perform post-processing to remove known biases and to compute weighted averages. The result is an international reference time that is continuously refined. The process relies on consistent reporting, validated methods, and transparent algorithms. In summary, operation of atomic clocks under controlled conditions combines physical containment, continuous monitoring, and precise signal generation. Each element contributes to a stable reference that can be shared locally and internationally. Procedures emphasize reproducibility, measurement, and correction. The result is a timekeeping system maintained by instruments, control systems, and verified methods, all functioning within a controlled environment. National timing laboratories maintain precise and traceable representations of coordinated universal time within their countries. These laboratories operate arrays of atomic clocks. They measure time and frequency. They produce national timescales that are designated with a country code in parentheses, commonly written as UTC-K. Each laboratory documents its procedures and uncertainty estimates. The role of these laboratories is technical and procedural. They provide a reference for legal time, telecommunications, navigation, and scientific measurement. Redundancy is a fundamental principle in national timing laboratories. Redundancy refers to having multiple, independent ways to measure and distribute time. It reduces the chance that a single fault will disrupt a national time reference. Redundancy is applied at the level of clocks, comparison methods, infrastructure, and data analysis. Multiple clocks of different types run simultaneously. cesium beam standards, hydrogen mesas, rubidium standards, and newer optical clocks are commonly used. Each technology has different strengths. Combining them provides a more stable and reliable ensemble than relying on a single device. Laboratories typically operate their clocks in ensembles. An ensemble is a weighted average of the contributing clocks. The weights are based on measured stability and uncertainty. The ensemble produces a primary local timescale. This local scale is then compared to international timescales. Regular comparisons allow the laboratory to maintain traceability to international standards. They also reveal anomalies in individual clocks or in measurement systems. If a clock shows unexpected behavior, its weight in the ensemble can be reduced or it can be taken out of service for maintenance. Cross-checking between systems is achieved through several independent comparison techniques. Satellite-based methods are common. GNSS Common View comparisons use signals from global navigation satellites. In a common view measurement, two laboratories observe the same satellite signal and compare measured time differences. Two-way satellite time and frequency transfer, or TWSTFT, involves exchanging signals directly between stations. Each station sends time signals and measures the return. Two-way methods cancel some propagation uncertainties because signals travel in both directions. Optical fiber links are another comparison method. Fibers can transmit stable frequency signals over long distances with low latency and low environmental sensitivity. Where fiber infrastructure exists, laboratories use it for high-precision comparisons. Multiple independent comparison channels are an element of redundancy. If satellite measurements are affected by ionospheric disturbances or hardware issues, fiber links may remain available. If one fiber route is disrupted, an alternate route or a satellite link can provide a cross-check. Different comparison techniques have different systematic errors. Comparing results from multiple techniques allows laboratories to detect and quantify such errors. The practice reduces the reliance on any single comparison method. National laboratories also exchange timing data with international organizations. The Bureau International des Poids et Mesures, or BIPM, collects timing data from contributing laboratories. It computes International Atomic Time, known as TAI, using a weighted average of the submitted data. TAI serves as a global reference from which coordinated universal time is derived. The BIPM also computes adjustments and publishes circulars that document the comparisons and uncertainties. These publications allow laboratories to trace their timescales to the international reference and to verify cross-consistency with other national scales. Documentation and transparency are parts of redundancy. Laboratoires publish measurement reports, uncertainty budgets, and descriptions of their hardware and methods. These reports allow external analysts to assess the quality of the comparisons. They also support coordination when equipment, upgrades, or changes in methodology occur. Regular interlaboratory comparisons and audits provide additional checks. Peer review of methods and data is a routine aspect of maintaining traceability and redundancy. Operational redundancy extends to control systems and power supplies. Critical equipment often has uninterruptible power supplies and backup generators. Control systems are designed to fail over to standby equipment without human intervention when possible. Data logging and archiving systems maintain records that can be reprocessed if errors are discovered later. Multiple communication channels allow data and timing signals to be transmitted through different networks. This operational redundancy supports the continuity of national timescales during routine maintenance and during unexpected outages. Maintenance and calibration procedures contribute to cross-checking. Laboratories perform regular calibrations of frequency standards and measurement instruments. They maintain environmental controls around clock housings to minimize temperature and vibration effects. When possible, clocks are run simultaneously in nearby rooms to detect localized environmental influences. Calibration certificates and traceable standards used in equipment checks provide documented links to broader measurement infrastructures. Uncertainty analysis is central to interpreting cross-checks. Laboratories quantify Type A uncertainties, which arise from statistical variations observed during measurement. They also quantify Type B uncertainties, which derive from systematic effects such as environmental influences and instrument calibration limits. Weighting schemes in ensemble calculations reflect these uncertainty estimates. When laboratories compare their timescales, the combined uncertainty of the comparison is used to assess agreement. Discrepancies larger than the combined uncertainty prompt further investigation. Emerging technologies add layers to redundancy and cross-checking. Optical clocks offer higher stability and lower uncertainty for some applications. Their integration into laboratory ensembles and into international comparisons is gradual. Laboratories conduct pilot comparisons and develop procedures to include optical standards without disrupting existing practices. Expanded use of fiber networks and advanced satellite techniques increases the number of independent comparison pathways available for cross-checking. The practical outcomes of redundancy and cross-checking are measurable. National timescales remain consistent with international standards over long periods. When anomalies occur, laboratories detect them through comparison data and ensemble diagnostics. They can then apply corrective measures, adjust weights, or exclude faulty measurements from averages. The combination of multiple clocks, multiple comparison methods, robust operational practices, and transparent reporting forms a resilient system for maintaining national representations of coordinated universal time. In this way, national timing laboratories perform a technical function that supports many systems that rely on accurate and traceable time. The methods and practices are methodical and repeatable. Redundancy and cross-checking are part of the standard operational framework. They reduce the chance that a single point of failure will have a significant effect on the national time reference. International coordination of timekeeping is organized around a small set of technical bodies and a larger network of national laboratories. The principal international organizations are the Bureau International des Poids et Mesures, known by its French acronym BIPM, and the International Earth Rotation and Reference System Service, or IERS. National metrology institutes operate atomic clocks and produce national timescales, commonly designated UTCK, where K is the institute's country code. These laboratories contribute measurements and operational data to the international system on a regular schedule. The BIPM acts as a central hub for comparing and combining clock data from participating laboratories. Laboratories maintain local ensembles of atomic clocks. They measure the differences between their local clocks and the signals used for international comparisons. These local measurements are packaged and transmitted to the BIPM according to an established timetable. The primary formal exchange of detailed clock data occurs monthly. The monthly submissions contain continuous records of clock readings or time differences, instruments used, and relevant metadata needed for comparisons. Time transfer between laboratories uses several technical methods. Two widely used methods are satellite-based common view techniques and two-way satellite time and frequency transfer, abbreviated TWS-TFT. In a common view method, two laboratories observe the same satellite signal and compare their recorded reception times. TWS-TFT involves simultaneous transmission and reception of signals between two stations via a satellite transponder, allowing direct pairwise comparison. Both methods produce time difference data that are then reported to the BIPM. In addition to satellite methods, ground-based optical fiber links are increasingly used for comparisons over continental distances. Fiber links reduce some sources of uncertainty found in satellite paths and allow more frequent or continuous comparisons where infrastructure permits. Global navigation satellite systems provide another source of comparison data. Laboratories collect GNSS observations and process them using common standards. The International GNSS Service supplies orbit and clock products that laboratories use in their analysis. These products support common view and precise point positioning comparisons, which complement the other transfer techniques and provide redundancy in the global network. Data exchange is not only monthly. Laboratories maintain ongoing streams of measurement data. Some comparisons occur daily or multiple times per day, depending on the link. TWS-TFT sessions between specific pairs of laboratories may be scheduled on a routine basis, often daily. GNSS-based comparisons run continuously as receivers collect satellite signals. The BIPM assembles these diverse inputs into a coherent dataset for the monthly computation. For situations that require faster information, a rapid or preliminary service provides shorter latency comparisons using a subset of the available data and simplified processing. The monthly product remains the authoritative, fully processed record. The computation of coordinated universal time at the BIPM uses statistical combination techniques. Time differences supplied by laboratories are adjusted for known systematic effects. The stability and uncertainty of each clock and each transfer link are evaluated. These evaluations inform weighting factors in the combination algorithm. The BIPM uses a weighted average of contributing clocks and applies corrections for assessed biases. The result is a single international timescale, denoted UTC, that represents the combined best estimate of the participating primary frequency and time standards. Reports communicating the results are published on a regular basis. The BIPM's monthly report lists the differences between UTC and the national timescales UTCK, along with estimates of uncertainty. These reports also include the time offsets of contributing clocks relative to the computed international scale. Laboratories use these published differences to calibrate and align their own timescales. The publication schedule and format are standardized so that recipients may compare and apply the results consistently. Alignment of civil time with the rotation of the Earth is handled through coordination between the BIPM and the IERs. The IERS monitors Earth orientation parameters and computes the difference between universal time based on Earth rotation, known as UT1, and the atomic timescale UTC. When this difference exceeds established thresholds, a decision is made to insert or remove a leap second from civil timekeeping. The IERS announces such decisions through formal bulletins, which which are issued with advance notice according to established procedures. This process ensures that UTC remains within a defined offset from mean solar time. Maintaining the integrity of the comparison network requires calibration and verification of the transfer links. Laboratories periodically calibrate, transmit, and receive delays in satellite equipment. They also perform common clock measurements and loop tests on fiber links. International calibration campaigns are organized when portable calibration equipment can be transported between sites. These calibrations quantify systematic offsets associated with specific transfer paths and are included in the uncertainty budgets used by the BIPM. The network of comparisons is monitored for continuity and redundancy. Multiple independent transfer paths between key laboratories provide cross-checks. When one link is unavailable, other links maintain connectivity. Data quality control is applied at several stages. Laboratories inspect their raw measurements before submission. The BIPM performs additional consistency checks, rejects outliers according to predefined criteria, and documents any anomalous findings in its reports. Technical committees provide standards and guidance for the comparison process. The Consultative Committee for Time and Frequency under the BIPM advises on best practices and measurement procedures. It issues recommendations on transfer techniques, uncertainty evaluation, and clock characterization. National institutes follow these recommendations when implementing local measurement campaigns and when preparing data for international exchange. The system of regular data exchanges, combination algorithms, calibration practices, and formal bulletins produces a stable reference time that national laboratories adopt and disseminate locally. The monthly rhythm of submission and publication forms a predictable cycle of measurement, processing, and reporting. Continuous streams of GNSS and TWS-TFT data, together with periodic calibrations and formal announcements from IUs, keep the international timekeeping system aligned across continents. The procedures emphasize transparency, repeatability, and quantifiable uncertainty in each comparison and in the final combined product. Official time is made available beyond laboratory walls through several distinct channels. These channels include radio broadcasts, satellite services, and data networks. Each channel has particular strengths and limitations. Together, they form a layered system for distributing coordinated universal time and other official timescales. Radio transmissions have been used for decades to broadcast precise time. Long-wave and short-wave transmitters emit a continuous signal that carries timing information. These signals are generated from reference clocks in national time laboratories. The encoded time information may consist of pulses, tones, or digital time codes. Receivers tuned to these broadcasts decode the information and align local clocks to the transmitted time. Coverage from radio depends on frequency and transmitter power. Low frequency and long wave signals propagate over large areas and penetrate buildings to some extent. Short-wave signals can travel intercontinental distances by reflecting off the ionosphere. Propagation conditions vary with time of day, season, and solar activity. This variability affects reception quality. To manage that, multiple transmitters are operated at different sites. Transmitters are monitored continuously. Redundant transmitters and alternate frequencies are maintained to ensure broader and more reliable coverage. Satellite navigation systems provide a global layer of time distribution. Each satellite carries highly stable atomic clocks. The satellite broadcasts a signal that contains timing information and satellite position data. A receiver on the ground uses the differences in signal arrival times from several satellites to compute a precise time and, when required, a position. Corrections are applied for the motion of the satellites and for relativistic effects associated with high speeds and changes in gravitational potential. These corrections are calculated by the system and included in the broadcast or applied by the receiver software. Satellite-based time distribution offers continuous coverage over most of the globe, where line of sight to the satellites is available. Urban canyons, dense foliage, and indoor locations can limit reception. To improve continuity, modern receivers can use signals from more than one satellite constellation. Multi-constellation operation reduces the chance that a temporary issue with a single system will disrupt time availability. Ground control segments monitor satellite clocks and orbit data. They upload corrections and maintain the health of the satellite network. Spare satellites and in-orbit replacements are part of the design to maintain long-term coverage. Network-based time distribution uses packet-switched communication systems. The Network Time Protocol, commonly called NTP, and the Precision Time Protocol, known as PTP, are widely used standards. These protocols allow servers to provide time information to clients across local and wide area networks. Time packets include timestamps. Clients measure round-trip delays and apply algorithms to estimate and correct for network latency. Network conditions such as congestion, asymmetric routing, and variable delay affect accuracy. Network administrators apply practices such as hierarchical server configurations and local stratum servers to improve stability and reduce dependency on long-distance links. Network systems can be secured and enhanced through cryptographic methods that verify the source and integrity of time information. Newer protocols and extensions address issues of authentication and resilience. Local network synchronization can be more precise than internet-wide synchronization, particularly when hardware timestamping and boundary clocks are employed. Precision networks in industrial and financial settings often use dedicated network hardware and isolated links to achieve sub-microsecond performance. Redundancy is a fundamental concept in ensuring continuity of official time. Multiple independent sources are combined within distribution systems. Receivers and servers are configured to consult several references. If one source becomes unavailable, others can supply time information without interruption. Operational procedures include automatic failover between sources. Maintenance schedules are coordinated to avoid simultaneous outages of critical systems. Monitoring systems track performance and trigger alerts when abnormalities occur. Traceability links distributed time back to the official reference. National time authorities maintain primary standards and publish their offsets relative to the global coordinated universal time. Distribution systems include metadata or auxiliary channels to indicate the provenance and uncertainty of the transmitted time. This information allows users to assess the suitability of a given source for particular applications. In many cases, calibration and testing procedures ensure that the distributed time remains within agreed limits of accuracy. Continuity during short-term disruptions relies on holdover strategies. Servers and receivers often include stable oscillators. When reference signals are lost, these oscillators maintain the local time for a period. The performance of holdover devices varies with their design. High-quality oscillators can maintain accurate time for extended intervals. Longer outages are managed by restoring connections to alternative sources or by physical intervention at critical sites. Distribution systems also convey adjustments that affect civil timekeeping. Announcements of scheduled changes, such as leap-second insertions, are transmitted through multiple channels. These announcements are included in official bulletins and encoded into some broadcast formats. Distribution pathways provide advance notice and repeat the information until the change has taken effect. Systems designed to apply such adjustments may do so automatically or under operator control, depending on configuration. Measurement and verification are part of operational practice. Continuous comparison between transmitted time and laboratory references detects drift and bias. Measurements are logged and analyzed to identify trends. Corrective actions, including recalibration, hardware replacement, or software updates, are taken as necessary. Routine testing of backup systems and simulated failure scenarios supports preparedness for real events. Coverage planning considers geographic and functional needs. Radio transmitters are sited to maximize regional reach. Satellite constellations are designed for global visibility and redundancy. Network topologies are organized to provide hierarchical and local time services. Specialized user communities, such as power grids, telecommunications, and scientific facilities, often require tailored distribution strategies. These strategies balance range, accuracy, and resilience. Security and integrity measures protect distribution channels. Physical security of transmitter sites and control centers reduces the risk of tampering. Cryptographic tools and authentication protocols guard against spoofing and false signals in digital networks and satellite services. Monitoring for anomalies supports rapid detection of intentional or accidental interference. In summary, the distribution of official time uses parallel systems that complement one another. Radio broadcasts offer regional coverage with simple receivers. Satellite services provide global reach with high precision. Network protocols enable flexible and scalable dissemination across information infrastructures. Redundancy, monitoring, holdover capabilities, and security practices combine to maintain continuity and coverage. These elements allow official time to be available for civil, commercial, and scientific uses around the world. Calibration and gradual adjustment are central to maintaining a uniform timescale over long periods. Individual clocks do not remain perfectly steady. Small systematic effects cause slow changes in their reported frequencies. These effects are identified, measured, and corrected through a sequence of calibration procedures. The result is a timescale that balances short-term stability with long-term accuracy. A calibration begins with the clock itself. The physical device is examined for factors that shift its frequency. These factors include temperature, magnetic fields, the electromagnetic environment, and the density of atoms or ions involved in the oscillation. Each factor produces a predictable change in frequency. Technicians measure those changes and apply corrections. Those corrections reduce systematic bias. The remaining uncertainty is then quantified and recorded. Primary frequency standards undergo especially detailed calibrations. Laboratory teams measure known perturbations and test the clock response. They vary temperature in a controlled way. They change magnetic shielding and measure the resulting shifts. They They model radiation from surrounding components and estimate its effect on the atoms. These measurements are combined into an uncertainty budget. That budget expresses how well the clock's frequency is known relative to the definition of the second. The size of the uncertainty guides how the clock is used in building a timescale. Calibration also addresses the measurement of delays. Signals used to compare clocks travel through cables, electronics, and transmission systems. Each component adds a small delay. Labs measure those delays with specialized equipment. They account for cable lengths, connector interfaces, and processing latencies in receivers. When comparisons use satellite or fiber links, the link delays are calibrated. These calibrations include the equipment at each end and the propagation path itself. Regular checks ensure that delay estimates remain accurate over time. Clock comparisons are the next step. No single laboratory holds the only reference. Clocks are compared to other clocks at the same site and to clocks at other sites around the world. Comparison methods differ in timescale and precision. Local comparisons can use direct electronic connections. Remote comparisons use satellite-based techniques, such as two-way satellite time and frequency transfer, or one-way observations of the same satellite signals from different locations. Optical fiber links provide another high-precision path for comparisons where infrastructure permits. Each comparison provides a measurement of frequency difference and associated uncertainty. These comparison measurements feed into an ensemble approach. Many laboratories contribute data to a coordinated timescale. The data are weighted according to the reported uncertainties of each clock and the observed stability. A weighted average produces an ensemble frequency that is often more stable than any single clock. The averaging process reduces random fluctuations. It also mitigates the effect of any single clock's systematic error, provided those errors are uncorrelated across the ensemble. Ensemble timescales are maintained at national laboratories and at international centers. The process of combining contributions is formalized. Algorithms assign weights and compute corrections. The ensemble may steer a local time signal to follow the weighted average. Steering is the gradual adjustment of a local oscillator so that its long-term frequency matches the ensemble reference. The steering process uses filters that smooth short-term noise while correcting long-term drift. The goal is to keep the local realization aligned with the ensemble without introducing abrupt changes. Long-term drift requires additional measures. Even high-performance atomic clocks show slow drifts due to subtle, long-duration effects. One source is slow degradation or aging of components. Another source is long-term environmental trends that are not fully captured by routine calibrations. To manage these effects, laboratories periodically re-evaluate their uncertainty budgets. They perform targeted measurements to look for shifts that occur over months or years. When a systematic shift is observed, a correction is applied and the cause is investigated. Transportable primary standards can be deployed to compare distant laboratories directly, providing cross-checks that reveal hidden biases. Traceability to an international reference underpins long-term stability. Laboratories submit their calibrated frequency measurements to an international bureau. That bureau combines the data to produce a global atomic time. The global time is published with estimates of its uncertainty and with the individual contributions that formed it. Laboratories then adjust their local timescales to remain consistent with the global reference. This process creates a feedback loop that keeps national and regional timescales aligned with a common standard. Gravitational and relativistic effects are also part of calibration for long-term accuracy. Time signals are affected by differences in gravitational potential and by relative motion. Laboratories correct their clock frequencies for the altitude of the clock above a reference geoid. They also account for known velocities when clocks are transported. These corrections are computed from standard models of the Earth's gravity field and of the laboratory motion. Incorporating them reduces systematic offsets that would otherwise appear when comparing clocks at different heights or moving relative to one another. Documentation and record keeping play a practical role. Every calibration measurement, every uncertainty estimate, and every applied correction is recorded. Those records are reviewed during periodic evaluations. They allow trends to be identified over long intervals. Historical records also permit the re-evaluation of past measurements when improved models or better constants become available. This archival practice supports continuity and provides transparency in how adjustments were made. Maintenance of the infrastructure that supports comparisons is necessary as well. Satellite receivers, fiber links, and time transfer equipment require periodic checks. Firmware updates and hardware replacements are managed in ways that minimize disruption to the timescale. When equipment change is unavoidable, overlap measurements and careful calibration are used to bridge the before and after states. The objective is to avoid introducing undocumented jumps in the time series. Finally, procedures for planned adjustments are established by international coordination. When a collective decision is needed to apply an irregular change to civil timekeeping, the responsible bodies follow agreed protocols. Announcements are made in advance. The change is implemented in a controlled manner. Records reflect the timing and magnitude of the adjustment. These administrative steps ensure that the long-term history of the timescale remains coherent and traceable. The combination of detailed calibration, continual comparison, ensemble averaging, and careful record keeping produces a timescale that is stable over years and decades. Adjustments are gradual and systematic. Drift is identified through measurement and corrected through calibrated actions. The result is a coordinated system of timekeeping that preserves the definition of the second across many laboratories and across long spans of time. Maintaining coordinated universal time requires continuous activity in several interlocking systems. Routine monitoring is central to that activity. Atomic clocks within national laboratories run continuously. Their signals are recorded and compared. Comparisons occur within local ensembles and across international networks. Data from these comparisons form the basis for corrective actions and quality assessments. Primary frequency standards, such as cesium fountain clocks, provide reference points. Secondary and auxiliary clocks, including hydrogen masers and other devices, contribute stability on shorter timescales. The output of each clock is logged with timestamps. Log files record performance metrics, temperature, magnetic field, readings, and other environmental parameters relevant to clock operation. Regular inspection of these logs reveals trends that indicate when maintenance or adjustment is needed. Institutions maintain redundant systems. Multiple clocks operate in parallel within a laboratory. Redundancy extends to supporting equipment, including power supplies, signal distribution units, and environmental control systems. Uninterruptible power supplies and backup generators protect against short and long power interruptions. Redundant network links and data storage systems preserve comparison data and timescale records. Redundancy reduces the probability of a single failure causing a loss of service or a gap in the time record. Comparisons between timekeeping centers rely on several transfer techniques. Satellite-based time transfer, using global navigation satellite systems, provides continuous measurements across continents. Two-way satellite time and frequency transfer offers a method for direct comparison between distant laboratories. Optical fiber links serve regional and intercontinental comparisons where available. Network time protocols and precision time protocols distribute time for many applications, but are supplemented by the higher precision transfer methods for scale maintenance. Each transfer method has characteristic delays and uncertainties. Laboratories account for these characteristics in their analysis. The international timescale, known as International Atomic Time, is maintained by a central bureau that collects clock data from contributing laboratories. Data submission follows regular schedules. The Bureau applies algorithms to form a weighted average of the contributing clocks. Weights reflect the measured performance of individual clocks over specified intervals. The resulting timescale is computed and published on a regular basis. Corrections and uncertainties accompany each publication. These publications enable participating centers to align their local realizations with the international reference. Coordinated universal time itself is produced with an additional objective. It maintains close agreement with the rotation of the Earth. When required, small adjustments are inserted to keep civil time synchronized with astronomical time within defined bounds. The timing and magnitude of those adjustments are determined by an established advisory body based on observed differences between the atomic timescale and the Earth rotation time. Announcements of planned adjustments follow defined protocols and schedules. Distribution channels ensure that the announcements reach time distribution services, navigation providers, and other stakeholders in a timely way. Maintenance includes both hardware and software tasks. Hardware maintenance covers replacement of aging components, calibration of measurement instruments, and inspection of physical installations. Clock heads are serviced according to manufacturers and laboratory procedures. Vacuum systems, microwave synthesis chains, and optical components receive periodic checks. Environmental control systems that regulate temperature and humidity are calibrated and serviced. Vibration isolation and magnetic shielding are inspected and realigned as needed. Software maintenance addresses data acquisition, analysis, and dissemination systems. Timescale computation software is verified against known test cases. Monitoring software checks the health of data feeds and flags anomalies. Data archival systems are maintained to ensure long-term accessibility and integrity. Security updates and patches are applied following change control procedures. Change logs document software versions and configuration changes relevant to timekeeping operations. Monitoring procedures include automated alerts and human oversight. Thresholds are set for performance indicators. Alerts trigger investigations when indicators exceed thresholds. Routine checks occur at regular intervals. Some checks are automated and provide immediate notification. Others are scheduled and involve manual review of trends. Investigations may lead to adjustments, repairs, or changes in operational mode, such as switching to a different master clock within a laboratory ensemble. Continuity planning addresses both foreseeable maintenance and unexpected events. Timekeeping centers create schedules for planned maintenance that minimize disruption to time dissemination. Planned activities are coordinated with external partners when they affect shared services. For unexpected events, contingency plans define steps to isolate faults, restore services, and maintain accuracy. Backup timescales and standby equipment are available to take over functions with minimal interruption. Procedures document how to revert to standard operation after an incident. Quality assurance relies on cross-checks and independent verification. Regular intercomparisons detect systematic offsets and drift. Historical records provide baseline behavior for each instrument and method. Statistical analysis quantifies uncertainties and identifies outliers. External audits and peer review complement internal quality control. Routine reporting captures performance metrics over multiple timescales, from seconds to months. Communication protocols ensure that changes and anomalies are shared without delay. Laboratories exchange status reports and comparison results. Central offices aggregate information and issue consolidated products. Time dissemination services and network operators subscribe to distribution channels that carry official time and correction notices. Logging of communications preserves a record of decisions and notifications. Long-term continuity includes maintenance of the historical time record. Data preservation practices protect the accumulated measurements and computed timescales. Archival formats are chosen for longevity and accessibility. Periodic migration of archives to current storage media prevents data loss. Metadata accompany archive datasets to describe measurement conditions, instrument configurations, and processing methods. That contextual information supports future reanalysis if required. Training and knowledge transfer are part of ongoing maintenance. Staff turnover and technological change require documentation and mentoring. Standard operating procedures, maintenance manuals, and calibration protocols are maintained and updated. Hands-on training and skill assessments ensure that personnel can perform required tasks reliably. Collaboration and information sharing across institutions support consistent practices and the adoption of improvements. The net effect of these activities is a system that operates continuously with known limits of performance. Regular monitoring, redundancy, verified procedures, and coordinated communication produce a coherent and traceable timescale. Maintenance and contingency planning reduce the likelihood of prolonged interruption. The processes that create and sustain coordinated universal time are disciplined and recurring. They emphasize measurement, comparison, and correction to preserve continuity and accuracy over time.